So here we have him, our Uber CEO, Dara K. You know, he spoke today on 4/10/2018 at 10 a.m. and there was this big global announcement. Now, I would like to know from my subscribers, from my friends out there, from my YouTube channel subscribers, what did you truly think about this global announcement? You're going to hear my take now, and I'm sure there are going to be many videos about this presentation that he gave. I'm sure Apptrepreneur, a channel that I love watching, is going to jump on this right away and give his take. I'm excited to see his video. And it's really cool that, you know, the top YouTubers who put out a lot of good content stick together. And in fact, I made a couple of emails, a couple of phone calls last week. So it's really nice to see that the guys that are really pushing out great content are all tight and sticking together. So I'm interested to hear from them what they have to say about this presentation he gave. My take, I'll be brutally honest, was it a failure or a big success? It was a huge failure, ladies and gentlemen. And I tell you why. This is the guy that represents Uber, the so-called $50-60 billion company. They brought him in after Travis Kalanick. Why did they bring him in? The board, the major investors wanted to see money. Nothing else. They wanted to see money, right? So his claim to fame, he says he's a good listener. He said it, if you listen to this broadcast that he did, he said, I listened. My friend, I don't know what you are listening to, but you must be deaf, right? Because the number one upset, and he says he's connected with all these drivers, he's connected with his partners, he truly understands, and then they bring out this. This was, to me, such a huge disappointment, right? Because I'm out there representing Uber, and then I have to look at this choppy presentation all over the show, a little bit here, Cairo, a little bit India, a few little snippets, United States, jumping over to LA, a guy called Yuki doing a presentation which fails. I mean, this is not how you get on the global stage to make an announcement, ladies and gentlemen, right? The first thing he should have come out telling his base, his drivers, the people that make him the money is, hey, we listened to your number one concern, and here is how we are going to address a raise in your earnings. And spent the first 5 minutes only talking about that. I tell you what, in every channel, if you take the time, or if the Uber team takes the time to read through those channels, the number one concern across the board, and I read international comments, I mean, we're an international global community and I respect all, but the number one concern is the earnings, right? There is no incentive when you're working with Uber, whether you've been with them for 4 years or 1 year, whether you've done 4,000 trips or 500 trips, there's no incentive to climb the ladder to make more money, right? If you want to retain and keep your drivers, which Uber is having a huge difficulty with. Why? I know that because I refer so many drivers each day, and I see how many don't even make it to the finishing line to get their guarantee or bonus. They stop, they drop out, right? Why? Because they're looking at their earnings, right? So if somebody says you're going to get this bonus or guarantee at 75 trips, they don't even make it to that point because they've done 10 trips and they drop out. So if the CEO doesn't address the earnings topic right away, they're done. They're done. Because all you see right now in the media are, you know, the hashtags are about, you know, pay drivers fair, IPO drive out. There's a lot of things happening in the background that Uber should study more closely, right? Upset drivers, collaborating, forming bodies, who knows, unions, whatever it is, because the day will come, they're going to put such tremendous pressure on Dara and the company, right? So he should have come out right away, address the fact that, hey, here's our game plan. we want to satisfy your number one concern, and that is earnings, putting more money in your pocket, and here's how we're going to do it. He didn't do it, so he failed on that one, right? Instead, they did a remake of this app, right? I'm not interested, that the new app will not show surge in the ocean. Who cares? It makes the app funny, like if your little red or orange markers go out into the ocean. No, we took care of that, right? That's irrelevant, Uber, right? What they need to address is, if they are going to go out and try and woo investors and get to an IPO in 2019, they are nowhere close in addressing the driverless cars. They should have learned from the first mistake when that car drove over that pedestrian crossing in San Francisco and almost killed pedestrians. You should have learned from that, taken that entire testing enterprise off into an industrial park with robots, with cars, and created real-time scenarios, not with people, right? But what did they do? They didn't learn again. They just never ever learn. It's just one lawsuit after the other. And who bails them out? Who bails them out? Us drivers, right? We're constantly seeing Uber in one lawsuit after the other, and us drivers are driving around the clock to bail out their legal woes and problems. That's what Uber is about. And therefore, the stock is going to be worth, wait till it gets to an IPO, right, in 2019. It is not what these guys think it's going to be, right? It's going to be way, way, way less, unless they get a new CEO in there that addresses the concerns, right? You cannot cut the driver's pay, and there have been tons and tons of screenshots showing 50, 60, 70% of a driver's pay is taken out of that trip. Unacceptable, right? You got to get your driverless cars into an industrial park, test it there so that you do not hit and kill a passenger. All that I was asked by my passengers a week after that accident happened is, what do you think? Is Uber doing the right thing? It's a tough question to get as a driver if you still have to protect these guys who are making crazy, idiotic decisions up there, right? And then you sitting in the car and you have to defend the company, right? Which is very often super embarrassing what they're doing, right? And you have to explain to the passenger. You have to do some damage control for these guys, right? So, I don't know. I'm losing faith very quickly in the company. Have I invested into it? Yes. Do I lease out a lot of cars and make a lot of money? Yes. But am I happy with the direction, the way this company is going? Absolutely not. And if I look at this 4/10/2018 global announcement, it was beyond shocking, right? Because they did a couple of pretty little things, cosmetic changes in the app. The guy said, their beta version had 4,000 bugs, right? You briefly hear from an engineer, you briefly hear from operations, you briefly hear from the product people, right? And then you get a guy like Dara Khosrowshahi who gets in the car and is testing this new platform. Now this guy, I don't know, I thought I'd read that he'd gone out there and taken some trips in the past and they got a little bit familiar with what us drivers are experiencing. When I looked at that video, right, of that new beta test, I could have sworn that was the very, very first trip he did. He looked scared, he looked unprepared, and he screwed up on a very basic turn, which took him all the way around Market Street, back to Market Street again, and he talked about it. So to me it looked like the guy who came from Expedia got in the car for the first time, right? When you take on a position as a CEO or a COO, I would at least expect you've done 100 or 200 trips and you truly have tested what your company is about, right? But now what they're doing is, I think they're covering up for a lot of these mistakes. They made an acquisition, they bought these little bicycles from a New York company. So they're trying to sort of please those investors a little bit, but the actual virus in this company has not been eradicated, has not been solved. And that is, you cannot take misstep after misstep, set yourself up for legal fight after legal fight, which costs a fortune, and then expect each time that the drivers bail you out. No, it doesn't work this way. So, you know, we didn't get what we were hoping for, you know, and like I'll repeat myself like a parrot here, but that should have the first 5 minutes. If this guy said he truly listened to us drivers, that is what he should have addressed first, because that is the #1 complaint. I get it in emails, I get it in text messages, I see it in my channels, I see it in my friends' channels. They are addressing and talking about the unhappiness, the frustrations, the anger about their fares being chopped down and whittled down to nothing. And has Dara not seen that? Has he not heard that message loud and clear? Obviously not. So, you know, you're going to lose drivers once again. People are going to lose faith after this announcement, and it sort of fizzles and dissipates, right? Gets less and less and less, right? You've got to go in there soon, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and say, hey, this is our plan, our long-term plan for increasing earnings. Here is what we're going to do. Frustrating, really. To me, that was a waste of time watching that, right? And I pray that somebody competent comes into that position and starts mixing it up and starts doing the right things and stays out of the courts, right? Because I tell you what, we are sick and tired of bailing them out again and again and again. My friends, I wish I could have given you a lovely, uplifting, positive story, but you know what, I'll go with my dear friend Kevin, the Apptrepreneur. He made a video before this announcement, and I knew what it was going to be about, right? It was going to be about the #1 concern, money, right? And I watched it, it was great, and I'm sure he's disappointed. I'm sure Uberman, Harry, Simple Driver, I'm sure all of us expected more. Drive safe.